That is not an official thing. Because I think Marvel couldn't afford like a press release. So can I just make that an official thing? I'm directing the Avengers. It's just a gig, you know.
Were the Avengers a big part of your comic book reading when you were a kid?
Yeah, they were one of the first books when George Perez was drawing them. They were on Counter-Earth. This was a big deal for me, yeah. Squadron Supreme, just saying.
How did the comic book things happen for you? I mean, like, how did you start falling in love with them? And
this actually, in a roundabout way, because my dad was the head writer of the Electric Company. They were going to do Spidey. They were going to do Spidey stories. So he came home with a bunch of old Spider-Man comics when I was about 9. And, just, sure, hand your son meth. That's great. He said, never looked back.
And that's how the comic book love. And what were sort of like the seminal kind of like superhero stories of your youth?
You know, there's so many that, it would take forever. But I'm just going to go with the Avengers annual and the Thing 2-in-1 annual that Jim Starlin did with the Death of Warlock.
Nice.
That was, for me, the beginning of Marvel Comics. That is the most underrated, overlooked piece, I think, in the whole Marvel universe.
JJ, were you into like superhero comics at all? Is that like a big passion for you?
I was not as much as Josh, but I worked at a comic book store when I was a kid. One of the first jobs I had, and I was like, just 15 years old, and I got a job in this store in LA. And the first day on the job, the guy, who was a really weird dude who owned the store, I don't know what he was on, but he gave me the keys, and he's like, I'll be back, I'll see you tomorrow. And he left. And I was like alone in the store with the keys. He didn't even tell me how to lock the door. So I kind of wanted to steal some of the older Spidey books that were there, and I didn't do it. I probably should have. But so I would read books, there, and I got into it. But I was never into it. I was more like into the Twilight Zone and more TV and movie stuff.
At one point, you did write a script for a Superman movie. It didn't get made.
It was very well received.
Is that a genre that you would be interested in returning to, like superheroes, or is that
sure? Yeah, sure. I'd be open to anything for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Joss, is it too early to talk about kind of like what your take is on the Avengers? Even if you could just sum it up in a line.
I have to have a take.
Yeah, it's helpful when you're a director to have kind of a take on it.
Okay, it is a little early. I am still writing an outline. I'm still in that stage of reworking it. I will say that the thing that I love about it, the thing that made me excited to do it, was just how completely counterintuitive it is. It makes no sense. These people should not even be in the same room, let alone on the same team. And that, to me, is the very definition of family.
JJ, you grew up making films on the Super 8 camera. You also grew up loving the films of Steven Spielberg. And now you are making a movie called Super 8 with Steven Spielberg. And is that like a total coincidence?
Is it a coincidence?
Is that a coincidence?
It's sort of a dream come true, honestly. The strange thing, this is a weird story. When I was 16 years old, Matt Reeves and Matt directed Cloverfield, and we created Felicity together. Matt and I went to Super 8 Film Festival in LA, and the LA Times wrote a story about it that came out the next day, and we got a phone call that day from Steven Spielberg's assistant, who at the time was Kathy Kennedy, and she said, Steven made films when he was your age, and they're damaged. The splices are sort of coming off, little tape splices. Would you guys be interested in repairing them? And Matt and I were like, yeah, we've got finals, but we could probably also repair Steven Spielberg's movies. And they said, great, we'll drop them off. So someone comes and drops off these two original films, Firelight and Escape to Nowhere, that Steven Spielberg made when he was a kid. And these are the original, there are no copies, these are the original movies. And it says on the film, which of course we watched them, it says written and directed by Steve Spielberg. And I'm like, Matt, we must take a frame of this. We have to. He's like, no, we can't do that, no. So we didn't steal it. And anyway, a lot of almost theft in my childhood. So we repaired these movies. They were shot on regular 8, not Super 8, and we like peeled off every splice and put it back on. And it was just watching these movies that he made. It was insane, and it was just so inspiring. And I had no idea why this was happening. It felt like a complete joke because isn't there a building somewhere at Universal that's designed to house the team that restores Steven Spielberg's films that he made when he was a kid? So we repair these movies, and they pick them up. They give us $300, and that's when I knew why they had us do it. But anyway, so years later, this is a couple years ago, I called Steve and I said, I have an idea for a movie called Super 8, and I sort of pitched him, and he was very excited about it because I knew, having, in a weird way, worked on those movies, I had a sense of what he had done when he was a kid.
What can you say about Super 8? Is this also a case a little too soon, or can you say?
It's way too early. I mean, I would love to, show you footage, but we haven't shot any. My favorite thing about the movie, though, is that someone, will go to the theater and see the trailer and hopefully say, "Oh my God, that looks bitchin'," and have no idea they're starring in it. Yeah. So we're shooting in September. We haven't shot the movie yet.
And what has been the collaboration like with Steven so far? I mean,
it's unbelievable. It really is surreal. And because there's a genre element to the movie, it's impossible to work with him and not constantly reference the work he's done. And you don't want to sound like you're being a sycophant, but it's been incredible. He's been beyond helpful, and the movie is, I think, very much in the spirit of some of the Amblin films that he made years ago. So it is a dream come true, and I couldn't imagine working on something that was more sort of personal and also kind of hyper real. It's not like the movie is some kind of autobiography, but there's a lot of stuff in it that feels very personal.
Will a film called Super 8 be in 3D?
No. Very interesting.
Interesting.
You're welcome.